Oh my gosh, Tom and Jerry's back on the big screen? Hooray! Except it's in the live action hybrid movie? Okay, I didn't see that one coming. Hey everyone, this is Rabbit Swallow Animation Bliss, and welcome to the At the Movies Corner, where I review the most recent movies that just came out. So today's movie I'll be reviewing today is the most recent Tom and Jerry movie. And before I get into my thoughts about this movie, here are a few words from the channel. Alright Animaniacs, now let's get on the social media train. Want to chat with us in 100 words or less? Then check out our Twitter account. Want to chat with us within a group? Then check out our Facebook account. Want to get the lowdown on everything dealing with animation on this channel? Then check all the above. And now, we return to our regularly scheduled program. So the movie starts off with Jerry the mouse trying to find a new home, and he ends up moving into New York City's most classy hotel. And it was there that a young girl named Kayla ends up working there, and when she finds out that Jerry's actually at the hotel and might actually run the risk of ruining this big wedding that's being hosted at the hotel, she ends up enlisting Tom the cat to help her get rid of Jerry. But of course, wacky hijinks ensures as Tom and Jerry try to chase after each other in the usual way we see them in the classic cartoons. So what are my thoughts about this movie? Well, I have to say that this movie was pretty interesting to watch. Let's talk about some of the things I did like about this movie. So the first thing I liked about this movie was, of course, the animation style for Tom and Jerry themselves. I like the fact that Tom and Jerry are animated using the classic 2D style that they had in their classic cartoons, and they actually look the way they do in the classic cartoons. Like, one of my biggest fears when I first heard about Tom and Jerry getting a live action movie was that I thought that Tom and Jerry were going to be animated in a more realistic way or look more realistic. But I'm glad that that didn't happen, because that would have been disastrous. I mean, we saw what happened with the Sonic movie when they tried to make Sonic look realistic, but it didn't happen with Tom and Jerry, thank God. So I like the fact that they were able to retain Tom and Jerry's original designs from their original cartoon series, and I like the way that they were animated. They have the same frenetic energy that they have with the old classic cartoons, and I enjoy seeing Tom and Jerry throughout the film. And another thing I liked about this film were Tom and Jerry themselves. I think that they were the best parts of this film because they were still faithful to their classic selves, as in they chase each other around and they try to get out of trouble and they try to make sure that the other doesn't cause trouble for whatever situation is going on. So in this case, you have Jerry who moves into the hotel and he's causing a bit of mischief there. So of course Tom is hired to chase Jerry and get him out of the hotel, and that's something that usually happens in the classic Tom and Jerry cartoons. So I like the fact that this film kept Tom and Jerry faithful to their original classic selves. It shows that the movie really cares about Tom and Jerry's characters and don't try to change them up so much like the original 1992 movie tried to do with the cat and mouse duel. So I appreciate the movie for doing just that. And another thing I liked about this movie was the humor itself. Like, sure, there was some humor in this movie that I didn't like, but I like the fact that this movie is a lighthearted family film and Tom and Jerry are in the center of it, so they bring a lot of humor to the film. I also like the fact that they introduced some of the other characters from the Tom and Jerry franchise, like Butch the cat and Spike the dog, so it was great seeing those two characters in this Tom and Jerry film as well. Now here's some issues that I have with this film. First off, I felt like the plot of this movie was a bit too bland in regards to Tom and Jerry. Like, sure, it is kind of hard to tell a story on the big screen about Tom and Jerry themselves. Like, honestly, I can't really think of a good story you could tell with Tom and Jerry on the big screen without extending it beyond to Tom and Jerry are fighting against each other. But I felt like the plot line about Tom and Jerry are trying not to ruin this big wedding that's being held at the hotel, and you have this human character named Kayla who hires Tom to try to stop Jerry from ruining the wedding. You know, it feels a bit generic to me, and it feels like, you know, I want another storyline that focuses on Tom and Jerry's characters. Like, maybe have Tom and Jerry go on a road trip. I know that seems cliche for a lot of films, but I don't know. In the case of Tom and Jerry, I think that would have worked out better if they were on a road trip, because at least it would have focused on them and they still be in the live action setting. So those are just some ideas I'm throwing out about the plot. But anyway, I do think that the plot was a bit bland for Tom and Jerry. And then another issue I have with this film was that I felt like the human characters were kind of bland. Like, I didn't really care for any of the human characters. Like, Kayla as a character was okay, but I felt like the other human characters were kind of bland and that they didn't really bring much to the plot of this movie. I felt like Tom and Jerry and Spike and Butch were the main characters that really made this movie interesting, but the human characters weren't that interesting to me, and I kind of wish that we didn't really have a lot of human characters in this movie. Instead, just have it focus on Tom and Jerry themselves and how they handle being in the live action setting. But overall, I had a fun time with the Tom and Jerry movie. While the human characters were kind of bland and the plot itself was a bit generic for Tom and Jerry, I did have a lot of fun with this movie. Like, there was a lot of humor in this movie that I liked. Of course, there was some poop humor in this movie that I didn't like, so I will admit that there was some humor in this movie that I just didn't like. But anyway, despite all that, I did have a fun time with this movie. Tom and Jerry were, of course, the highlight characters of this movie, and I did like the fact that they were able to make Tom and Jerry stay faithful to their classic selves. So those are some of the things that I did like about this movie. And if you like Tom and Jerry as a franchise, I definitely recommend you check out this movie if you want to see how Tom and Jerry deal with being in a live action setting. So that's my review on the new Tom and Jerry movie, and tell me in the comments down below, have you seen the new Tom and Jerry movie? And if you have, did you like the movie? Did you hate the movie? And what was your favorite live action adaptation of a cartoon character? Please feel free to tell me in the comments down below. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. This is Rowdy's Blog Animation Bliss, and I'll see you guys later. Hey guys, like this video? Then please feel free to hit that like button. And also, hit that subscribe button for more animation content from this channel. And now, roll the credits please.